What is reading? What is our brain doing when we read? It's mostly something we take for granted, and once we've learned how to read, it seems quite natural, even effortless, like riding a bicycle. When we pick up something to read, we normally pass through 4 stages of activity, although we don't normally stop to notice them. First of all, we get a really quick idea of the sort of thing it is we're reading. So I pick up a newspaper and almost immediately I've observed this front page article is meant to be important because of the big headline. It's part of the news coverage, not the opinion coverage later in the paper, and so it's supposed to be a more factual style of reporting, and it's the Sydney Morning Herald, which I've been reading for years, and I know the kind of biases and subjects that it will focus on. I get a feel, in other words, for the context of the article, and this happens usually very quickly and easily. That's the first stage. Then I start actually scanning my eyes over the text. I observe the words and the sentences and the paragraphs on the page, what they're saying, how they're connected, what the key and most important bits are. And by the time I've finished, usually for a newspaper report, that'll just be one quick skim, I've got a good idea of the meaning of the message or article, what it's trying to say. And so I might say to my wife when I get home, "Did you hear about that awful boat accident on the harbour?" Thereby showing what I think the whole thing is about, what it means. That's the third stage. And fourthly and finally, I might decide to take some action. I might write a letter to the editor because I'm incensed. Or I'll maybe mutter to myself that this is typical of the government and I'm certainly not voting for them next time. In other words, I'll apply what I've read in some way. These 4 stages of reading we could summarise as context, observation, meaning, and application, or COMA for short. These stages will overlap somewhat, and in normal everyday life, we pass through them so quickly and so seamlessly, we don't even notice them.
Oh, okay. What will I read today? Oh no, I'll just plop the Bible open and see what I get. Okay, what have we got here? Go take to yourself an adulterous wife. Surely it doesn't mean Julie from accounting.
For some reason, when we come to read the Bible, we often leave our ordinary reading skills behind. We pay little attention to context. We barely bother to observe what is actually there on the page. We often take it to mean what someone once told us it means or what we already thought it meant before we read it. And then we either fail to apply it at all to our thinking and lives, or we apply it in a haphazard or random way. Over the rest of this course, part of what we'll be doing is looking at these 4 stages of reading: context, observation, meaning, and application. But this is not a special method that we've discovered for reading the Bible, as if the Bible needs its own way of reading. What we're really doing is just refreshing ourselves as to what reading really is, and learning to apply those skills to the Bible. To kick things off, let's look briefly at context. Context is really a fancy word for where does this bit of writing fit? What's it part of? What's the story so far? What comes immediately before it? Who wrote it? Why was it written? So say I open up to Colossians chapter 2. Obviously, if I'm going to make sense of Colossians 2, I really need to check out Colossians 1. And when I do, I find that this is a letter written from Paul and Timothy to the Christians in Colossae. To help me understand Colossians 2, I would also want to get a feel for what this whole letter is about and why Paul wrote it in the first place. And if I had a quick read through, I could get a broad idea of the main purpose of the letter without too much trouble. But since we've already noticed that the Bible is one big book with an overarching message and story, we also need to ask where Colossians fits within the Bible as a whole. In the case of Colossians, it's pretty easy. It's one of the letters of Paul, it's in the epistles or letters section of the New Testament. And we usually find these letters quite easy to get a handle on because they're written to people who are in the same part of God's plan that we're still in. Jesus has died and has risen and has returned to his Father and has poured out the promised Holy Spirit, and we Christians now live as his people in the world, seeking to live and witness faithfully while we await Jesus' return. It's not hard to see where a book like Colossians fits. Now, it can be a lot harder with other books, especially those in the Old Testament. In fact, as we'll see later, understanding the context of the Old Testament passages is particularly important as we come to apply them to our lives now. Fortunately, there are numerous excellent resources available to help you understand the context of different books of the Bible. The first is the Bible itself. The more you read the Bible, and all over the Bible, the more you'll understand the big story that the Bible tells and how each part fits into that story. Two other excellent resources I'd recommend. Firstly, the Bible Overview. This is a short course or seminar that you can do as a group or with friends. It provides a really useful pictorial overview of the whole Bible and helps you to put each book in its context. The second is the New Bible Dictionary. This is a basic reference work that every Christian should own. It has shortish but really informative articles about every book of the Bible, giving a good summary of where it fits in, who wrote it, what its main ideas are, and so on. To get a feel for the context of any book of the Bible you're studying, one very simple way forward is just to read the New Bible Dictionary article about that book. Well, that's enough from me on context. Time for you to go and have a look for yourself.